Welcome to the Wild Ones podcast, where we talk about bike stuff. I'm Francis, this is Jimmy, and this is episode 6. From the road.
6 already?
Yeah.
From the road. You sound a bit croaky, Francis.
I feel a bit croaky. It's been a long few days. So, for the viewers at home, we're not in our usual lovely studio. We're in a hotel room. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. We're in a Holiday Inn in central London. And we've been filming a video series, which a couple of episodes have dropped already, about the best rides that you can do in the UK, or the best cycling holidays in the UK. And we filmed 5.
Started with 5 episodes, yeah.
And we've been away 6 days.
6 days.
Just finished it.
So yeah, we've missed at least one podcast, and we're definitely going to miss it. I think another podcast, because we've just run out of time. But we wanted to do one, so it's happening in a hotel room.
The things we do for you guys.
We're going to start this episode with Fluff Up of the Week, because there has been a lot of them.
Fluff. There's another one. Fluff Up of the Week. Do you want to talk about the first one? I want to get it out of the way.
What, as in, why we're late?
Why are you wearing Emily's t-shirt?
Oh, right. I have one t-shirt left to get me home, and it's the OG Wild t-shirt, and I've picked up Emily's one, which is an extra small, but because they are outrageously oversized, I can just about get away with it. But if I lift my arms, my belly button does come out.
I think it's a look.
I quite like it.
There's actually a lot of people walking around London dressed like that. I think it's a new thing. I haven't been back in a while, but they're all about fashion. London people, aren't they? Super tight t-shirts. They're back here. Super tight, super short shorts. Camera can't see his shorts, probably a good thing. Shorter shorts than ants. I did a podcast with another guy, super short shorts.
Yeah, very short.
New thing? What other fluff ups have we had?
Well, we've been on the road for the last 6 days, so we didn't do a podcast until now. There will also be no podcast episode next week, because we are going to go on holiday, and we refuse to let... We've been building up to this holiday for so long. We're not going to the same place, we're going to different places. We've been building up to it for so long that we've just categorically refused to let work flow into it. And we've run out of time. We were going to shoot 2 podcasts before we went on holiday, but we've ended up doing one in a hotel room instead.
Why don't we do 2 in one day? It's surprisingly hard. A podcast is surprisingly draining and difficult, and there's things that go wrong, and then there's lots of admin, like file management and things to do afterwards. So that's why we're not doing 2 in one day, because there'd be 2 really bad podcasts instead of one pretty okay one. And I know it's filmed.
And I'm very nervous that we haven't got Emily to make sure that this doesn't take like 40 hours.
That is true. Another fluff up, which I think we can talk about. I had a crash.
That's not even a
Are we allowed to talk about it? It's definitely a fluff up. It's your fluff up. I was fine.
Ridiculous!
Your fluff up.
Where the camera will show that I was not moving, you were moving.
So we went to
Road into me to the station.
I had only one line choice.
But the road is a metre and a half wide.
Right. Steepest street in the world. Harlech, Wales. Harlech.
Well done.
Like hummus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is a lovely little road in North Wales, which we were using as part of our 6 things to do in North Wales video.
It is literally the opposite of a lovely little road.
Oh, it looks lovely.
It's a very horrible medium-sized road.
Okay.
It's intimidating walking down there.
It's slippy. It is slippy. I cycled up it for the video. We won't go into too many details, but my cameraman, Jimmi, got in the way. For some reason, just ran straight in front of me. I crashed into you. I hurt my knee, but luckily I fell on mud.
I've seen the camera footage. It will clearly show that I was static and you literally rode into me.
It's a really good clip. At least there's footage. At least.
You will never...
It's really good.
Ridiculous!
When you watch it in the edit, you'll realise how much longer afterwards I was filming as well. I prioritize filming to regular
from the ground. Bikes on the ground. And it's just like one bike. Nice. So, multitude of fluff ups. We're going to talk about the cycling series that we just filmed more in later podcasts.
Later in this podcast.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've read the notes, you haven't.
I haven't read the notes. But let's get into the debrief of the week. And the first story is sprinter, pro cyclist Fabio Jakobsen and his mysterious disappearing S-Works. Ooh, conspiracy. Essentially, Fabio Jakobsen crashed in a Tour de France stage during a sprint and snapped his S-Works race bike in half. And he posted a photo on Instagram of it. The bike is broken, the body is bruised and burnt, but the morale is intact, Fabio said.
I've seen the photo.
It's pretty gnarly, like bike in half. Seen quite a few situations like that firsthand in my life. These things do happen. Then the photo mysteriously disappeared.
Well, it wasn't mysterious. He deleted it.
He deleted it mysteriously.
Presumably by the request of various sponsors or probably his team management, I would have thought.
The post was quickly taken down. It was replaced by a carousel of images in which his bike was carefully hidden behind him so you couldn't see it was broken. The new caption simply said, "Thanks to everyone for your support and messages. They mean a lot to me."
So, I could see why a bike sponsor would not want that picture in the world because people will start questioning whether the bike was safe or not, or whether you should buy that bike because it might crack. But I guess what we know is if you crash hard enough on carbon,
it's going to break. Yeah. Full credit to, not credit, but full understanding to, it's not because the bike is any more delicate than all carbon bikes. If you crash them really hard at the speeds, like in a bunch sprint in the Tour de France, they're going to break.
But
it's bad luck.
We do know a bit of insider info on this sort of topic, don't we? From Carbon Man Rob.
Potentially.
I'm sure, I think we discussed this previously in a podcast as well. Isn't it that the pro bikes have less
resin?
Essentially,
he has, in his educated opinion, he thinks that a lot of race bikes that are being raced at pro level are built in a way they're slightly more fragile, but faster for racing.
So there is a possibility, speculation, that the frame had less resin and therefore it would be easier to crack?
Potentially, yes.
But definitely speculation.
Definitely speculation.
But that wouldn't even be a consumer model anyway.
It's going to break anyway. Yeah. If you were on a consumer bike, it would break anyway. Absolutely.
I'm glad that he's all right. Well, obviously not like perfect, but I'm glad he hasn't had a very significant injury.
Yeah.
That was obviously a very big crash for the frame to crack as bad as it did.
I always find it amazing how many people in crashes like that still just get up and
probably not normal people.
No, of course.
Did you know?
It's spare bike stuff, and obviously it's in the last. If it's in the sprint, I've got to finish the race.
Do you remember we were actually talking about it on one of the many hours of driving over the last 5 days, where I was saying that once upon, I think it was when we were somewhere really windy, and I was doing a warm up for a TT, and it was unbelievably windy. This is like a decade ago, and I was on the tops on the TT bike. And I was warming up going, this is so windy. There's no way I'm going to be able to get on the extensions for this.
Yeah.
And then I was on the start line, and as soon as they set me off, I was on the extensions for the whole MRTT.
Separate thing, isn't it?
Didn't even think about it. Like once the race starts and you are a racer, because I was at that time, like it's just a mentality, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You just do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of these people do is they crash and they don't think, I've crashed. This really hurts. I'd like to stop now. Like normal people.
I don't know. You jump up. The faster you get up and carry well. Yeah, of course. Of course.
It is wild.
So I guess the question is, I don't know where this, the command came from. Was it Specialized that asked him to take it down? Was it the team that realized that maybe they shouldn't have posted it, asked him to take it down? Whatever the case, it's had completely the opposite effect to what they wanted. And there's people like us, we're not the first people to cover it. Talking about it in podcasts and using it as thumbnails, and now the picture is more widely spread than it probably would have been in the first place. So completely opposite effect. Don't try and sweep stuff under the rug. It just doesn't work. Once it's on the internet, it's on the internet.
I think like from a brand perspective, there is damage limitation or potential damage limitation, but you need to just deal with it in a different way rather than just hiding it.
Yeah, of course.
It'd be much better if whoever had an issue with it and said to pull it down actually commented on it, addressed it, spoke about it.
Do you think Fabio Jakobsen manages his own Instagram? He's a big name, but he wasn't a big... Like, he might be at that point where someone should be managing it.
Well, some of the pros will have people managing it, and some of them, especially at big events, might have people managing it just for the big events. It's 50-50. It might be himself, it might be someone else. It could have been, a Reddit, like a loved one that does it for him whilst he's there.
Yeah.
Perhaps he wouldn't have put it up himself, and it was someone in his team that thought it was appropriate.
Yeah.
But, good question.
Yeah. We reached out to Specialized to see if they had any comment on the bike breaking, and they have not replied to us.
At the time of recording, we've had no reply.
Next up, Mark Cavendish coming back out of retirement. So, as we know, old news now, old but very sad news. Mark Cavendish crashed out of the Tour de France with a broken collarbone. It's a complicated collarbone break, so it's not even going to take a week to fix. It's a few weeks, I believe, because he's broken it so many times. It makes it more complicated. He was retiring at the end of the season anyway, so it pretty much makes this season a write-off. He's currently tied in Tour de France stage wins for the record of most Tour de France stage wins won ever with Eddy Merckx, and I think there was a bit of hope that he would break that record and be the only person to have it by the end of the season. Astana, his team, have offered him a contract extension to ride the next year's Tour, saying he deserves another opportunity, and he hasn't currently come back and said anything. He did post a cool video, nice little video on Instagram yesterday from hospital where he's looking a lot better. He's smiling. He's looking forward to recovering and being back on the bike soon. And he explains a bit about his injury as well. But he doesn't talk about whether he's coming back next year. Obviously, there's going to be conversations that are going to be had, but that would be a big change for him. But I don't know. I'm just a fanboy. He's such a nice guy. The reason I got into cycling, lovely guy. I've met him a few times, ridden with him. He's just a dude. I really want that. I really wish the best for him.
Yeah, but how many years has he been retiring?
A lot of time. But it's stressful for him. Like he loves it, but also...
It must be like 4 or 5 seasons.
The heartbreak it's also very stressful, isn't it? It's like the guy deserves... You've done all this stuff now. It's like, yeah, you want to do other stuff in your life, right? How many more years? Siad.
I just looked it up. He is born the same age as me. He's a couple of months older than me. He's 38 currently.
Yeah.
I'm not currently 30. I'm 37, but I'm nearly 30.
You feel 38 after this trip.
Oh my God. It's just the end. It really shows, because do you remember there was a couple of seasons where he had an illness and he kind of pretty much didn't compete and he was off the radar. Can't remember what the illness was.
Glandular fever, so
it was something like that.
There's another word for that, isn't it?
It really shows how exceptional he is. That he got through that period, he dealt with it, and then when he came back, he actually just started winning again.
Yeah.
He's
winning against, and sprinting is physiologically, sprinters tend to be a bit younger, right? Is there some? But we need a sports scientist. So, but in terms of it's longer efforts that are affected less by your age, whereas a sprinter should be affected. I assumed they were affected in a detrimental way as they age. And compared to the guys he's running against now, it's 20-year-olds he's racing.
But everything
gets harder. Crashing gets harder. Yeah. Recovering from the crashes, and of course you have the best medical care in the world, but it's all just going to get more difficult. But
will we see him next year?
I hope so.
I feel like we will, because he's still hungry.
The man is.
He wants that.
He totally is,
isn't he?
He totally is. And he was so close. It was bad luck. Even the sprint stage, so he came second in the stage. Yeah. And he had a mechanical. He like skipped his chain, something like that. He was so close.
He's going to come back.
He's so close.
He'll be there. We should put money on it.
That'll be a mad movie of his life. Great.
That is setting up for a right old film. It'll be like one of those 90s titles where it'll just be called The Missile.
Oh, yeah. The Missile. If they use that name, just, you heard it here first. You heard it here first.
Well, you didn't. He's known as The Missile.
Oh, fuck. Mark Cavendish is known as being really meticulous with his race planning and like wrecking your routes and just knowing when stuff's going to come up, particularly in the last bit of the races. In my experience, though, I lined up with him on the start line of the Nationals. Glasgow, I think it's Glasgow. One of them anyway. And he turns to me, the big bunch. I was like, I'm really nervous. He looks at me and I'm like, what's he going to say? And he goes, which way does it go? And I'm there like, I have studied the course meticulously, so I'm absolutely bricking it. And he turns up, doesn't even check it. But the World Tour guys and the Nationals, it's like, there was maybe 10 of them at that time. Way more this year. Most World Tour riders in the Nationals ever. But back when we did it, it was probably about 10 riders that turned up. You know, a couple of quick step guys, Sky back then, David Miller, he was still racing, who kept riding up and down the finishing straight on the right-hand side of the road because he's so Euro, just messing everyone up. Now, on to our big question of the day. What have we learned from cycling around the UK?
So in summary, we have explored top tips for 5 regions of the UK that we decided before we got there, went to each region, filmed the individual things that we had an interest in, and executed all of the videoing and started editing on the road. And it's taken 6 days to record 5 locations.
Yeah.
And we've thus far covered about 1,100 miles of driving.
Which has been full on for you.
Yes.
I don't have a driving license. Yeah. For the viewers at home. Soon to be rectified.
Is it?
But I'm on record on a podcast saying it now, so I have to. You wish. I don't know if I want to. I'm 30 now. I don't know if I want to ruin my streak. Not having a license.
It's fine. We'll just never do another series like this again.
Fine with me. No, it's been very fun. It has been fun.
So ultimately we've been moving around the country a lot at a very high rate within the speed limits, to document lots of cool stuff.
High rate in terms of we get to a location, we get out of the car, and then we're filming straight away.
Yeah,
which hit on bib shorts, literally driving around in bib shorts all day, ready to go.
Terrible for me
because you've just done
like
stuff.
14 hours of literally non-stop.
Yeah.
Whereas for you get to sleep for 8 hours of the day.
Did I sleep in the car at all?
Yeah, but you do that thing where you sleep with your eyes open and have a conversation.
Looking at the notes of the video that we're about to do. Yeah. I was also DJ.
So the big challenge with the logistics on something like this is we have to do a lot of pre-planning. We actually worked with producer Emily on getting all of the pre-production done on this. So we essentially know where we're going and we have the right information to talk about at each of these locations, because it's important that we don't just, turn up at Stilham Dam and go, this is a dam, it's really cool, it looks pretty.
Well, that's the thing. Most of the locations, all of the locations, one of us have been there and ridden it already. But I don't know facts about them. So it's all the stats and stuff, all the important stuff that it has to be correct in the video. We don't know those at all. And both of us struggle to put information into your brain and then regurgitate it straight away. So it's like the people who present, it's amazing. It's such a skill.
Yeah.
It's such a skill. It's not just making a vlog where you're talking about what's happening right there and then. Cool, I can talk to a camera and do that. Don't care about filming in public. Great, easy. Doing this, regurgitating facts which you just had to learn. Even if you learned them the day before, they're gone. I just can't retain them.
I do think it's massively exacerbated by
being tired.
Unbelievable levels of fatigue.
Yeah, well, of course.
And I'm not looking forward to watching the 5 episodes side by side and seeing how much I physically deteriorate by the end.
Physically, it was also I rode more than you did. Jimmy would ride a little bit with me to get some footage of the climbs and stuff. I would usually ride the climb or the road or the feature the whole way, so we had stats. So we had like the actual Garmin stats that we could show. The video series was sponsored by Garmin, so we need to get Garmin in there. And it would be, here's the bottom of like 6K, 15% climb. Get out of the car, go. It's like there's no warm up or anything. It's 20%. It's like, okay. And then I'm filming just like, Jimmy sent me up this climb, what an asshole.
It's a beast, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I'm complaining. I actually really enjoy doing stuff like this.
It just needs more time. But anyway, we'll
God, if we did it if it was one location like Northumberland and we did it in 3 days, we would be a lot more relaxed. It would be enjoyable. But that's what I like that.
It's actually a series that I wanted to make for about 4 or 5 years. I've always wanted to do a mini travel series in the UK because I personally think that cycling in the UK is massively underrated and is one of the best cycling places.
Is it going to be overrated, underrated?
I don't know. I do think it's massively underrated, and I just always wanted to showcase the UK. And I think there's a lot of people in the UK that live in these regions that also want to see their like secret little roads that no one really knows about being shown, and seeing that actually it's getting recognition because it is amazing. So when we were chatting with Garmin about some video features for this year, we mentioned this. You weren't convinced at first, and I'm not totally convinced. I'm not totally sure you're convinced by it yet. But I still think it's a great format, and I really like it. And I hope it does well, because then we can make more of them, and then we can start looking at the best places to ride in the world, and really show stuff that no one has ever seen before.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. You have to experiment with these things.
Yeah, of course.
And that's, I think some of the success of the channel is down to me early on always changing and doing different stuff and trying different things. And some of it works, some of it doesn't. And then you just adapt. You just can't do the same thing for too long. But particularly in this series specifically, there was the challenge of how many people are searching for, okay, Lake District, yeah, Peak District, yeah, but Northumberland. How many people in London, they've heard of Northumberland, but is it on their radar of, I'm going to go cycling? Northumberland might have cycling there. You don't. You just go.
Yeah,
Northumberland's
massively.
Yeah, Peaks Lake Mallorca.
Exciting peaks, is it? Corona. It's probably lakes.
Probably lakes, which I think was the weakest place in terms of cycling.
Wow. It's got the most challenging cycling.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want to go on a cycling holiday.
Neither would I. And we're two very different riders. I've been on a cycling holiday there.
The problem for me with we're going to go into this now. We're going to deep dive into. All right, fine, let's do it.
Doesn't need to be that deep, do we?
The best.
Yeah.
It's joint for me. London and Northumberland. And that is going to piss off everyone in the world. Because they're going to go, London, shit, it's full of cars. And I'm going to go, but it's the safest out of all of them. And it's the most exciting. Yeah, because everyone's so used to cars in London that it's just fine.
So used to cyclists.
Yes.
Yeah. The drivers are so used to cyclists. And the places you ride, as long as you know what you're doing, but you know where you're going.
The infrastructure is unreal.
Yeah, the infrastructure is good.
But there's so much excitement. They're like London and Northumberland, like opposite ends of the spectrum. London is like urban. There's tons of food everywhere. Everything you could possibly want, you can find, and you can get to it on a bike. And they're probably bike friendly. And if they're not, you can just get a Boris bike and dock it outside. Northumberland is unbelievably expansive. You can see for so many miles. It's got an amazing coastline. It's got climbs if you want climbs. It's flat if you want flat. It's got gravel riding. It's got mountain biking. It's got everything you can possibly imagine. And it is not outrageously busy.
Yeah, and it's dry compared to peaks and lakes.
It's as
and all
dry as
Wales.
London,
Yeah. As dry as London.
Wales for me is Wales. I'm from Wales, therefore, just as soon as I cross the border, the air feels cleaner to me.
Yeah.
It's just one of those places. It feels like home, so I love it. I absolutely love it. I really don't want to go and ride there. So one of our mates, Dion, who helped us with the route, we caught up with him very briefly. I don't think we even really filmed him very much.
No, but we filmed him saying a very long word.
Yes. He helped us put the route together. He lives up in Harlech. And every time I see him, he's like, oh, you've got to come over and do some riding. And every time I'm like, no. Well, I just don't want to. It's really close to the lake.
It's extremism, isn't it?
The climbs are massive. They're really steep. They're not as close together as they are in the lakes. But, like, obviously it's unbelievably beautiful to ride there.
They're still pretty close. Yeah, it's only uphill or downhill, and the climbs are 20% up.
Yeah,
for a lot long portions of them.
The peaks,
this is relentless.
The peaks is great. It's really nice. I think it's probably got really nice riding in the peaks, in that, like, the climbs are savage, but everything just feels a bit more like muted
Flow.
Yeah,
there's flow.
There is better flow there, isn't it? It feels like you could do some nice routes in the peaks where you finish them and go like, that was a challenge, but I'm still functioning as a human.
Road surface is good.
Road surface is good, and of course there's
better than the lakes.
Chris Hall and George Galbraith.
You have those two people. Everyone hang out with that. We've got some friends there. It does make a difference.
You can pay to hang out with George because he's got a campsite.
Yeah, you literally can.
They are all unbelievably beautiful. The lakes is stunning, and I would like, if I was going there, I don't think I would take a bike. I think I would go take my dog and I'd go walking. I'd go to do some of the.
But it's outrageously busy. In the summer, it's outrageously busy.
It's London.
Yeah. More so, like, significantly more than the peak. The peaks is spread out, I guess. So there's a couple of hot spots, the little town.
The peaks felt very residential compared to the lakes. The lakes feels like it's literally just full of tourists, whereas the peaks feels like it's full of, like, people that live there. Yeah. So the roads actually were a bit busy, but it's just like people going to work and going to the shops.
Yeah.
Wales was, like, unbelievably quiet.
There's no one there, is there?
Northumberland was unbelievably quiet.
Yeah. You're right, Northumberland wins.
Are we agreeing that the joint winners are Northumberland and London?
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that must be biased because we both live.
We love London.
And we both live right next to Northumberland. Or I literally just left living in Northumberland.
Yeah.
I think we're biased. That must be biased, must have.
Well, we better check out some more. I think there are people in the comments, they were suggesting Yorkshire, Scotland, Devon, Ireland. I've never been to Ireland. Well, I've been to Dublin once, but never the rest. There's a lot more. Yeah, there's some cycling there as well. So score on the cards.
Scotland and Yorkshire were on the list. So because we were doing the first series and it needed to be efficient, we were originally looking at places that we could get to relatively quickly from our base in Newcastle. Mm-hmm. So originally the list was going to be Edinburgh instead of London.
Yeah.
So it was basically just this trip that all links together and it's super compact. But because of other logistics, it made more sense for us to end up in London. But Yorkshire was also on the list. We didn't consider Devon or Cornwall because they are a long way from home. So even just getting there is about a 7-8 hour drive or something or other. But, you know, if these videos do well and there's a reason for us to be able to do more over other stuff, then I'm very keen to finish. I'm very keen to complete the United Kingdom and then keep going.
Me too.
The lowlights was definitely not giving ourselves enough time. Like you said, we should 3 days per location is what it should be, because then you can do all of the filming in 2 days and at a pace that's like you can actually enjoy it and ride a bike.
Yeah. There were some points where we were looking at each other like, this is how are we going to get up this morning? How are we going to do this? Another time,
so it happened. There's a lot of it that happened.
We pulled it together. We're very good at G'ing each other up and pushing the energy back up. Energy levels back up.
There was probably 2 or 3 points where we were both very low, and that was the most challenging bits. But
Oh, I got grumpy about the camera.
you did,
Yeah.
And I got grumpy about being tired. So it was just like
that.
it's just I don't know. I think we actually do work well together, because if we can both be at that level of fatigue and not wanting to kill each other,
Nah, we're very chill. Yeah.
it was good. It worked well. So yeah, more time at each location, and then we could do so what we wanted to do was actually ride with, because ultimately there's always an expert in every region. And one of the things we actually wanted to do was spend some time with that person in each region. So in this case, Northumberland was us because we know it. Well, it was technically me because I was living there for a while. Lakes was Toby from Coldark, who is the Route Master General. Peaks was Chris Hall, so we wanted to spend more time with Chris. North Wales was Dion, and then London was again us. But it would have been nice to actually, when we were in the lakes, go for a ride with Tobes and do a bit more of a feature on Tobes and what the region means to him. And that's what a bit more time.
It would be two full days in each location, and then a travel day in between.
/ edit it.
Yes, we can edit in the car. Edit a camper van instead of a car. That would be perfect. Perfect. And then all you do is drive on that middle day. I edit, and then we get there, have a chill eat.
Yeah,
that'd be perfect.
We were going to have a camper van for this, but the logistics of getting the camper van would have taken too many days to collect it, because it was available from down southern England. So I would have had to have lost the day coming down to get it, to drive it back, to then undo that when we finish.
Yeah.
And at the time, we were also going to be finishing in Scotland, not in London. So yeah, next time we were definitely doing a camper van.
Time for another round of overrated or underrated, my favourite bit of the podcast. I'm going to read out a list of things, and you're going to tell me if they're overrated, underrated. Tour de France Spectators.
That's so hard.
Poor guys.
They are overrated
Why?
because they are too intense, and they make. If I was a rider, I'd be so annoyed. I'd be probably pissed off.
It's part of it, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's like
It's that sea of people, when they're going out, I'm doing it.
great for TV.
Yeah.
But it must be horrible as a rider that you're dictated to by these people. How many crashes happen because of spectators being in the
Well, lads, two this year already.
It's just step the fuck back.
Steph Crass had to abandon the race after a fan caused a crash.
It upsets me that spectators are making the sport not only unpleasant for the riders, but literally dangerous. That shouldn't be a thing.
People get too into it.
Just chill out, enjoy it. Don't be a dick.
But it's when it reach the point where they ruin it, and they get there's no spectators allowed, and there'll be barriers or something, and that'll be really sad. So a little bit of a change in attitude, just for just a bit of a shift. I think it's part of it. It's iconic, and it's really great. And then they're being positive. It's fantastic. You get some people who are dicks. You get a person I don't know, Contador, they're heckling him and stuff years ago. That's a bit fun.
Even more so than the narrowness of it and people sticking their arms out. You used to see it. It's a lot less frequent, or maybe it's because I just watch less pro cycling. But you'd sometimes get someone which would come up the side and start patting them on the back. I think there was one from a couple of years ago, and one of the riders was getting patted on the back, and it was literally just someone basically punching them in the kidneys. Not actual punch.
Yeah,
but it was like a kidney slap. It's that's not pleasant.
No.
But then I also go oh, maybe they actually support someone else and they're doing it on purpose, and they are actually giving them a kidney jab because they want to crash or something.
Bad. The thing that got me, the place I raced with the biggest crowds was Belgium, and the Nationals, but that was barriers. But Belgium, dogs.
Oh my goodness.
Dogs. Just don't bring them.
Oh, on the foot.
Dogs. So they run out, cause crashes. There was a dog that ran out, caused a crash, and the guy was on the floor for laps. Ambulance, everything. Horrible. Just don't bring your dog to a bike race. Really.
Well,
and if they
keep it.
keep it somewhere else.
Control of it.
Yeah.
Always have control of it.
I know, as a bike racer, you just don't want it anywhere near the road. Just away. And I love dogs.
So you saying overrated or underrated?
Oh. Overrated. Slam stems.
Overrated.
If your bike fits you, you can slam your stem.
That's not what the question is it overrated or underrated?
But if your bike fits you, then it's underrated because it's the correct place for it.
Well, it's not underrated.
If your bike doesn't fit you, then it's a good way to make it fit you. So underrated. I'm agreeing with you.
That's underrated.
Underrated. It's a use. Sorry, Slav. No, it's a good. That made no sense. Overrated. It's a good way. Putting stack on a frame that's the wrong size for you is a good way of getting your handlebars higher. So you don't want to slam your stem. It's been a long week, Jimmy. Okay, it's been a long week. Emily can edit this, make it sound real smooth. To that.
In the past, it has been fashionable to slam the stem on a bike regardless of anything else because it looks cool. So in my opinion, it is massively overrated because fit is more important than if a bike looks cool. And I've historically done it, and I would have had a much more enjoyable experience as a bike rider if I hadn't.
Your stem is currently slammed on your Scott, the CADE Media Scott, but it fits you.
It does, yeah.
So that is a perfect example of what I was just saying.
Also,
get a bike that fits you.
Some of my other bikes that I ride are slammed, but they are literally custom geometry and steel.
Well, there you go. Perfect. This it goes to show custom is.
But the idea of slamming it for aesthetics is overrated.
Yeah. Especially super aggressive frames.
Yeah.
I find I can tolerate a very aggressive position. Do a lot of riding. Well, do a lot of riding. Doing less and less as time goes on. The Scott Foil is a very aggressive bike. That's slammed. And you can feel like that. That is a long bike. It's a long bike. Most people will not be able to ride a bike like that. No, bike. You would need a short step or more stack. FTP tests.
Overrated.
Overrated for the majority of people.
They're not. The more coaches I speak to, the more I find that coaches aren't using 20-minute FTP tests as their benchmark for performance.
Yeah.
Most coaches are not using the 20-minute test, but it's so popular as this it's how much power I can do in 1 hour that people are obsessed with it. And with that in mind, it is overrated. I'm going to be doing some work with Coach James Jobber, and the first thing he said was 3-minute and 12 minutes.
Yeah. He's all about that. So I would go even further and say FTP is overrated.
Yeah.
High FTP doesn't mean you're going to be great in a race, and it's I think
or just as a cyclist.
Yeah. Like if you're having a smash up with your mates, James is a perfect example. He's a Conti rider, and his FTP is probably a whole watt per kilo less than mine was when I was racing at elite level, and he's significantly better than me. Significantly better bike racer for a multitude of reasons. There's lots of other things that matter much more than having a high FTP.
Yeah.
So if your FTP is like, I can only do 5 watts per kilo, that's not only, that's super high. There are pros with 5 watt per kilo FTPs. If you have lactate recovery and you can recover in between efforts and you can come back and you can keep doing that 5-minute power, loads of points during the race, and you can do it 4.5 hours into a race, that is important, and that's really good for if you want to do well. FTP is not the be-all and end-all.
But let's take it back a step to just like normal cyclists that aren't professional bike racers.
Yeah.
It still doesn't matter. They're going to get better bang for their buck riding than going like, I need to be really good. I really need to have a really strong FTP. Just like follow a generic training plan like that isn't just about FTP, and you're going to end up being a better cyclist.
Yeah, it's volume, isn't it? Volume's the key.
Well,
But
I don't know. But like, again, if you're like a professional rider, but most normal people don't have 20 hours a week or even 10 hours a week. So like, actually not just focusing on like base and volume and zone 2 and doing big numbers like you have done historically and Chris does all of the time.
But we have time to ride.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Like if I was going to get fit again, I wouldn't be going, well, I'm going to do 2 hours a day of bike riding. I'm going to be going like, well, what can I get done in like 30 minutes, 40 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
And then when I can do longer stuff, I put that in as well. And then even within that smaller stuff, like just volume in a sense of if I'm riding consistently, I'm going to do better. So like, just ride, have some efforts every now and again, make sure you're recovered, have a good time. Would I even bother doing an FTP test? Probably not.
The two most important things in your training really is volume and intensity. If you can't get the volume, then intensity is next on the list.
Yeah, exactly.
And like if you, agreed in terms of what you need to focus on. Then comes all the other stuff, which people focus on too much, I think. Maybe for another episode of Overrated, Underrated. But it's all the things like supplements, recovery.
Yeah.
Like it's just the list goes on forever and ever. And
do you know what? We should actually talk about this because, we're not. I personally don't want to talk much about the whole like pro cycler thing, pro racing scene, because I don't know much about it, and I do enjoy it, but ultimately I don't care that much about pro racing.
Mm-hmm.
But we have both raced competently for quite a good period of time. You at an elite level, me in more running and triathlon stuff. I have done those bike races as well, but we both really dug deep into training philosophy and like the psychology of it and the nutrition of it and the strategy and all of that side of stuff. So that probably is something that we should talk about at some point.
Yeah, we can.
Our experiences.
Tan lines.
Overrated.
I
hate tan lines. They're the most ugly things in the world. Pros don't want them, so they roll their sleeves up. Amateurs want them because it makes them look more pro. So there's this Instagram movement, definitely historically, probably not so much anymore, of like cultivating perfect tan lines. So I look like a cyclist when I've got shorts on and a t-shirt on. But nah, I think they're vile. I've always spent as much time as possible not having them.
I try.
Look how short my shorts are. I don't have a tan line.
I'm permanent now. That's it. After a few years of racing, that was it. It's like they're literally, I cannot get, and then if I try and fix it, I just go red. It's red and then brown. Let's just get it back to white.
It's weird that because Emily's a bit like that as well. Like when when her leg tan line is in, it will just stay there for years without any top up.
Yeah. So weird. Fasted cardio.
Wow. Okay. This is actually a problem.
This is one of those things that's low down on the list. I was just talking about the people focus on.
It's overrated because people don't understand it. However, I appreciate and like it as part of a larger training program.
You like it? Why?
It has value. But people think that fasted cardio is a tool for performance, but it isn't. You perform badly if you train over zone 2 when you fasted, and therefore I think it's overrated because people go out fasted and do really hard sessions and it's less effective.
Yeah, that is true. I'd go out with Pete Hawkins. We talk about Pete a lot on the podcast. Used to race in the Commonwealth Games. I'd go riding with him, do like an hour cafe spin, fasted sometimes. He really liked doing it, swore by it. However, evidence shows it doesn't make that much difference. And it's low down on the priority list.
The fasting? The fasted part. Yeah.
There's obviously you're under zone 2 the whole time on that ride, so you can do it. It might make you slightly more efficient at burning fat. But the problem is, in that world, if you're a trained athlete and you're fueling with carbs, even though you are fueling with carbs, you are still extremely efficient and you're still burning a lot of fat. Your fat burning zone is incredibly good. That's what you do. Just all of that time spent in zone 2 is training that. So it doesn't move the needle very much at all. It's one of those things that people focus on when really they should be focusing on volume and intensity.
Yeah, overrated.
Yeah, I've been doing a fast. Fast. You know this?
I do.
Yeah, noisy. Well, what breakfast? Got no breakfast in the hotel.
Well, I don't know. I do unintentionally end up not eating, like especially when I'm in the studio or when
you've sort of joined me a couple of times.
When
right?
it's hot, I'm just not hungry in the morning. So I accidentally end up doing fasted cardio.
Yeah,
well, not even cardio. Fasted, intermittent fasting.
Yeah, that's it.
But I think I'm a big believer of little and often in everything that you do, and that includes food.
Next up is Listeners Takeover, and we have a question from Rich. Do you have any advice on which way to go if you're between bike frame sizes? The Canyon I'd like to buy isn't available in UK retailers, so I'm buying blind. The bike is over £4,000, so I really need to make the right choice. I'm on the upper limit of their size small and lower limit of their medium. My heart says go smaller. I would go for the smaller one. However, I wouldn't buy a bike blind or without getting a bike fit first, especially if I was spending £4,000 on it.
I would say you're much better off buying a bike from a bike shop. That if the size is wrong, you can go, oh, do you know what, mate? The size is actually wrong, but it'll probably be right in the first place because they'll know the bike inside out.
Yeah.
Will
they though? Bike shops.
Well,
Depends what one.
Yeah, I did think that as soon as I said it. If you find a good bike shop, how do you find a good bike shop? I don't know. It's a tough one.
Sigma Sports is a good bike shop, and it was really good back in the day. Everyone knows Sigma Sports, right? If you're in the UK. I went there when it was a smaller shop. They put me on a 54 centimetre Cervelo S1. Way too big.
And that was on your racing stake as well. Probably should have been on a 50.
Yeah, 51. 51, 52. 54. And that's from a shop that knows what they're doing. So they make mistakes. Well, that's before, Bike Fit became serious. It's before they hired James. That's why they did.
I would say, I guess that, Canyon's direct consumer from day one, they probably have very good sizing methodology built into their sales offering because they kind of have to. Look at the return options. If I was guessing, it's probably being imported from outside of the UK, so there might be customs on it. I'm not sure. They probably cover that. But you might still have to send it back to see what options are with getting it sent back if it is the wrong size. Which is the right option? It's quite hard to say, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's where a bike fitter, bike first, James Thomas's method of fix first,
buy later. Buy later. James had a problem. So we have a friend called James who's a bike fitter. He was moaning about the Canyon charts being wrong.
Right.
So, brilliant. Sorry, can't help. Other than fit first, buy later.
I would like to be able to help, but yeah, it's just too tough. It's too hard. You can obviously do things to a bike to change the fit if you know what you're doing.
Well, a small bike you can make bigger much more easily than you can make a big bike smaller.
Yeah, that is true. As long as the small bike isn't so small that like your toe overlap is so aggressive that it's just unpleasant to ride. But I guess pretty much everything's toe overlap.
Everything's got toe overlap. You just learn to deal with it.
Apart from my gravel bike because it's custom.
Ah, yes.
There you go. Custom steel bike.
Custom stuff.
0 toe overlap on an extra small size frame. Sorry, Rich, we can't really help you.
Next question from Kaplanyi. Hi guys, really love the show. I have a question about tyre tread. From mild knobbly gravel tyres like the Touareg, Torino Dry, Terra Speed, Cinturato, Gravel H. Are the knobs more likely to wear off on pavement or on gravel off-road? I guess these were designed for hard pack surfaces or not too difficult on off-road rides. Pavement would wear them more. Is there any difference?
What?
My understanding is yes.
Do you know those tyres? Like one of those tyres?
They're like different gravel tyres.
Right, okay. From different
not with massive knobbles on. The gravel tyres that I have used that are like this, like the Touaregs, the tread on them, there's knobbles, but they're not very soft.
Yeah.
So they're made to last longer and for hard pack stuff.
So you've hit the nail on the head there. It will wear as fast as the quality of the rubber.
Well, no, riding a mountain bike tire on a road, the myth, or maybe it's true, is the general understanding from people is that you don't want to ride your mountain bike too much on the road in between the trails because it wears your tires out.
But that's presumably because they have such soft rubber.
Yes.
Whereas there probably are versions of tyres that have a rubber that's more suitable to riding on tarmac. There is going to be ultimately it comes down to, like, even road tyres, some wear quicker than others. Mm-hmm. It's a bit of trial and error. Speaking to a bike shop might be an option, or someone that has lots of experience. What is the actual question? Is there any difference? Yes, there is a difference, but it's mostly, in my experience, because of the type of rubber of the tyre.
Is there a difference between the same tyre on road or light pack gravel? And the answer is, I believe so. However, it's speculation.
Yes. Try different tyres, see what works for you. It's probably the...
Question from Worthy. Love your podcast. A bit of frivolous question. Have you ever checked Strava? No. And seen any famous pro riders who are in the same segments as you? If so, who? Mine was Wout van Aert. Needless to say, I wasn't quite up to his speed on that segment. I don't use Strava.
I don't use Strava.
So
I have it. I hate Strava. It encourages all the bad stuff about cycling bikes. It makes people think that they need to be bike racers when they should just be out having a good time. The amount of times I've been riding with people...
Well, some people like doing that.
But it's not healthy. For most people, it is the anomaly, but there's some people that are so obsessed with segments and data, and part of the reason of that is apps like Strava, and that makes me very upset. They forget that the best thing about riding a bike is getting your mates together and going out and having a chat and having a good time, and actually not thinking about data or average speeds or segments. And that is the reason why Strava very much upsets me.
Do you think that the going out and just having fun with your mates is getting lost?
I think it's coming back, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I think when we were riding lots, however many years ago, everything was about Strava. There's that meme, that saying, isn't there? What is it like?
Strava or it didn't happen.
What a load of shite.
Mm.
If anything, that's a great branding exercise for Strava, isn't it?
Yeah. So when Strava came out, I was being coached by Andy Edwards, Kingston Wheelers.
Yeah, I know Andy.
Used to race the Premier Canada's grey hair music biz. Worked at the music biz. Yeah. Lovely guy. And I remember Strava coming out and he was like, don't get that. Don't get it. Because he was coaching me. I wanted to go as far as possible in the sport. It was getting serious. And everyone can see your data. Everyone can see your training. You don't want to show people your strengths, do you? Yeah. Not how it's going to make that much difference.
That's actually
I always think of that.
That's the next level on from being obsessed with Strava. Is being
so obsessed with your ID data. Just don't have the data in the first place. Nah, it's a personal thing. I like having the data. I upload it all to just the Garmin app, and I go back and I look at it. It works with my watch data. I like that. The sleep stuff. Sleep, body battery, and all those things. I check that every day. And when you record stuff on your bike, it then syncs and it all works together, which is cool. But yeah, in terms of Strava, nah. I don't want another social media. I don't want any social media. The only reason I've got Instagram is because it's a job, it's a work. I don't want more.
I am on Strava. My stuff.
I think you get little likes.
My stuff automatically uploads to Strava, but I don't pay attention to it. Strava used to be absolutely mint for route planning, and that used to be the only thing I used it for. But then they put that behind the paywall, and I didn't particularly like Strava anyway, so there was just no reason to keep it.
Yeah.
Thankfully, not only are we sponsored by Garmin, but Garmin's route planning stuff is actually now sick.
So I just use that for everything. Convenient. That is all for this episode. If you have any questions or stories, please send it to wildonespodcast@cademedia.co.uk. If you watch this podcast on YouTube, please subscribe. And if you're listening, please like the episode and give us a review on Spotify or Google or Amazon. Is that where it is? I think it's Amazon.
Audibly is Amazon's.
Audibly. Yeah. Oh, lovely. We're not here next week because we're on holiday in 2 different locations.
I'm going to be in Scotland.
And we're here in London.
And then we're both going to be in the north.
Oh, so I will see you there. Great. But we'll be back the week after. Thank you so much for listening, and listen to you guys soon. See you guys soon. Well, I say see you guys, but we're not seeing them. It's a podcast. Listen to you guys soon. You will listen to us soon.
We're probably going to need an outro song, aren't we? our travel series. We put lots of effort into it. It's very no, it's not very good. We like it, it's very fun travelling around, but we get very tired and now we want to sleep. Goodbye.